Hello, and welcome to the Game House's next episode of Dorm Chats, where we go around talking to the who's who of college esports. I'm your host, Robert Haynes, and joining me is Alex Rogers of Bellevue University. Thanks for being on with me today, man. How's it going?
Good, good, Robert. Thanks for having me. How are
Eh,
you doing?
Oh, dude, I'm doing fantastic. It's a great day.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
great day
Oh
in
yeah.
esports. So much going on. And We're going to start off with you guys were just at the Midwest Open. How'd that go?
I'd say it went well. We didn't perform as well as I'd hoped, but overall the experience was a great one.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
it gave the guys and the team an opportunity to have a chance to kind of see, what they're up against, meet some of the other players and people who are very good, and
hmm
so they had a chance to see a very high level of competition.
yeah.
As well as experience that traditional sports experience by traveling to an event.
hmm And how was like getting that all together? Being able to get your players together, make sure you guys got down there okay. How was the university's support with all that?
The university was great. They helped support us by, giving us the resources that we needed, transportation wise. Putting us up in a hotel for lodging, meals, everything. I mean,
That's
basically, they
awesome.
treat our esports program no different than any other traditional program.
That's fantastic. That's what I love to hear personally. So, jumping into that, what kind of started this program, and what made you personally want to get involved with it?
Well, I've always been a big fan of esports, and I've kind of followed the scene and played video games recreationally. But what started it here was actually uh, the president. It was really her idea who had sent one of our vice presidents to like a convention, and he saw a presentation for esports. And he came back to the university and told the president, yes, this is something that we need to do. Yes, this is the next big innovative thing, and we should jump on board right now. So she tasked him with putting a group of people together to basically start building the program from the ground up, seeing exactly what we needed in terms of hardware, in terms of how and where and what the space for the room should look like.
hmm
I mean, everything. And so that process in total took about 9 months, 9 months to a year to
Oh wow.
complete. So I
Okay.
got involved later in the planning stages because they eventually came to a point to where they said, okay, well, now who's going to run this? We've put it all together, and who's going to coach it?
hmm
And so they put out like an internal job posting, and I saw that, and I thought, hey, like that would be awesome. I would love to do that. So it started out as like a part-time stipend position,
hmm
but eventually, as I transitioned into doing that role while doing my other full-time role here,
hmm
they recognized that it needed to be a full-time position, and
That's
then
awesome.
and made it full-time for me.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, it's good. It's good to see these universities taking care of their people because I think that that's like a huge way to grow this culture, right? Is to have the people, be really ingrained with it and giving you that full time positions. I think a really cool way for them to kind of like thank you almost in a sense, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's given me the ability to support the program
Mm-hmm.
and give me the time that I need to dedicate toward it in order for it to be successful.
That's awesome. That's super cool. So as a head coach, so that's another part of your job. You
Hmm?
guys have a bunch of young talent right now. I mean, you guys basically have all freshmen and sophomores. So people who you can build the program with. How did you
Uh,
get them to join?
well, eligibility wise,
hmm
many of them are freshmen and sophomores, and
Yeah.
so yeah, because we're an NAIA school, we follow the eligibility rules for that. So,
Okay.
in all actuality, although some of them are freshmen, many of them are also seniors technically here at school.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep, yep. So
Okay.
it's a little confusing though. I'm assuming you found that information on the website.
I sure
So
did.
yeah, no. So when we were putting the program together, basically I came into the picture pretty late, so I was somewhat hard for me to recruit and try to find people to field a team.
hmm
So interestingly enough, we actually have a partnership with a school in China
Yeah. Okay.
Guangzhou School of Commerce.
Mhm.
It's GCC is really what it's referred to as, or what we refer to it as. And so a number of those kids who are here, I met with and told them about our plans of having an esports program. And so out of about 20 kids who were interested, a handful or about 10 of them were interested in being on the team.
Mhm.
And of that population, there was a smaller population who was really, quite frankly, at the level that
You
I
needed.
was looking for to
Yeah.
field a competitive team. And so,
Absolutely.
in addition to that, I was fortunately able to recruit a handful of people from across the country as well.
Mhm.
Who I brought here to fill in those other additional needs and gaps for the varsity level team.
That's really cool. And that's I was wondering because they were all from the same area on your guys' roster, and I was like, man, how did they get that connection? I mean, I guess that's my question: is how did you guys get that kind of connection over there in China? That's amazing.
Well, our president, she has done a lot of work over there, and through her connections and her relationships that she has, she was able to establish that because it was basically a school in China that only had, I think it's basically it would be similar to like a community college here in the United States.
Okay.
And once they finish those 2 years of school in China, um, those kids then look to complete their bachelor's degree and then come here to do that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's basically just like a continuation of their education.
That's amazing. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, so then to add on to that, recruitment wise,
Mhm.
how do you go about it? Besides that connection, which is again that's nothing like I've ever heard, so that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
But what about like through the rest of the country? How do you find the players to join you and join the Bellevue Bruins?
Well, I've gone through a number of different channels to
Hmm.
in order to do that. And so before, it seems like lately there's been a lot of like recruiting websites and things that have popped up
Yeah.
that I've seen, but I use one recruiting website in particular, and I also have done things like posting in forums and stuff on,
Hmm.
just different gaming forums where I initially started, which is how and where I found the handful of the first class of recruits who I brought in, as well as just in the game. I mean, you can just go and look at the solo queue ladder
Oh yeah.
and just add people, and I don't have a problem with just contacting or reaching out to people.
Hmm.
Granted, most of them who are on there are like pros, but um, it's just kind of grinding and getting out through word of mouth, as well as me going out. I've spoken to a number of high schools, and
That's
their
awesome.
kids. I've really just tried to do things in the community to help build and grow our brand and our program to just create awareness around us and
Hmm.
what we have and what we're doing and what we're about. I also have tried to push out in our social media by creating our own Facebook page, of course,
Hmm.
YouTube channel, Twitch page, Instagram, all the different social media outlets, as well as Snapchat. I've just really tried to take advantage of to help create awareness.
Absolutely. I mean, you're the man doing all of it. I mean, you
I'm
you, you
trying.
have you
Yeah,
have you have. I mean, you're doing it all, man. That's awesome.
yeah, I'm
Um,
trying.
so then, with the recent announcement over the last couple months of Riot putting money into the Big Ten, and with the Peach League starting down in Georgia, where do you guys feel like you stand, or where are you guys trying hoping to go in that similar regard?
Well, I'd hope that Riot would recognize because we're a part of the National Association of Collegiate Esports,
Hmm.
otherwise known as or referred to as NACE.
Hmm.
I hope that they would recognize and see the value in that, because if they see the value in these other big name schools and networks like the Big Ten Network as well as the Peach Belt Conference, I would hope that they too would see the value in that, because just like in traditional sports, there's different levels of competition.
Hmm.
So right now it's kind of like the Wild West where any school can compete against any other school, which
Hmm.
is fine, but why not make it like different conferences, just like they have in NCAA Division One, two, and
Absolutely.
three, NAIA? I mean, why not do that? And why not allow yourself to be able to market and brand to these other entities that it's okay to use our stuff and license it so that you can promote us as well. It's like a win-win, you know?
Absolutely,
Just
absolutely.
like nobody owns football, I
Hmm.
mean, as a sport as a whole. So if people want to play League of Legends or Overwatch or any other esport game, why not let them do that in an organized fashion and work with them, you know?
Okay, so would you be somebody who would be for the NCAA, or would you prefer a different organization? Because we saw recently with the Pac-12, a bunch of people started their own Pac-12. Like it's still under the name the Pac-12, but
Mhm.
for those of you who are viewing who don't know, they started the Pac-12, but um, it's not officially with the NCAA. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, would you guys be willing to do something like that, or would you prefer kind of like the NCAA to get involved?
Well, I think at this point, it wouldn't be bad for the NCAA to get involved.
Hmm.
And I say that for two reasons. The first one being that, quite frankly, it adds legitimacy to it because there's still like a stigma around esports not being taken seriously. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think if the NCAA were to endorse it and advocate and support it, I think parents who are maybe not viewing esports as a legitimate sport, they would perhaps then be more inclined to be on board with it.
That's a good point.
Not that it necessarily needs that, but I just
No.
think that it would help. And quite frankly, since the NCAA is, let's be honest and real, the major governing body for all other athletics and college sports right now, to me that just logically makes sense that they would get involved.
No, absolutely, and I think that's a good perspective, especially for the parents' side. I mean, there are still
Hmm.
parents all the time. I mean, even at the high school that I'm helping out with, the parents even there are still very skeptical when I tell them there are potential scholarships out there for your kids if they get to a certain level of play, and they tell me like, oh, there's no way, and then they go and visit the local university around here, Miami University, and they hear about the scholarship program there, and they're like, oh, okay, I guess that's a real thing. So
Yep. I guess, yeah, and
yeah.
the other reason too is that, if they let the NCAA get involved, they can become, less hands off in regards to like the eligibility things that really
Hmm.
the NCAA focuses on a lot because that's really what they're there for to regulate these sports. And so then I would hope that the game developers and the company would be able to then focus on exactly what it does, and that's on the game.
Okay, awesome. I totally agree with you. I think that's a great perspective. So then, what would you say besides potential NCAA? What are some next steps for college esports? They're getting a lot of attention. I think ESPN recently had something on it, and I think Avali was over there at their facility potentially. I forget where she was. I just saw her tweet about it. Maybe it was yesterday. But what are some of the next steps, especially with like concerns to pros?
Well, I would say, since there was the recent inception of the franchises for both League and Overwatch, and that to me just opens the doorway to other additional esports games that gain traction and continue to trend upwards in popularity. I would think that, quite frankly, again, just thinking logically, it would mimic the path of traditional sports. And what I mean by that is, these traditional sports generally like to farm or pick from college players.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's just going to, again, follow that same similar pathway of going, all right, I'm going to become really good at this sport, could be esports or any other sport, have this at the college level, and then proceed into like the AAA teams, just like with a baseball team,
Yep.
and then into like the majors. So, I don't see any reason why I can't follow that path.
Yeah, I'm of a similar mindset as you, Alex, and I actually have described it plenty of times as the AAA farm system too, because I think one of the things is there are so many people. Every time I told them, I was like, okay, the NALCS needs to take more than 10 teams. That was one of the biggest things I said from the very beginning. They
Yeah,
didn't, which is fine. I understand, to a certain degree why they didn't. Although I'm still hurting for our boys from Immortals.
they're very
Noah
selective.
over
Yeah.
there. Yeah, and I'm glad that they were. But at the same time, they had over 100 applications. I mean, they had the choices. So I agree with you. I think that it's if they want to develop talent, they've got to find a place to do it. You can't just expect solo queue to be the only place, in my opinion. I mean,
Oh,
that's just full of
goodness, no.
toxicity,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think if you add that kind of structure, the big problems of people coming out into the into the NALCS with kind of this, I'm gonna carry mindset. I don't know if you watched the uh, did you get to watch the NALCS draft?
I did not, unfortunately, no. I did not catch that.
It was very awesome. They did a great job. It was literally like watching either like the NBA draft or the NFL, you name it, which was great.
Hmm.
But it was so funny how interestingly these people, not these people, these players were. I forget exactly who it was who got drafted first. I'm having a mind blank here, but um, me and my friend who watched it together, the first thing he said is, "Yeah, I expected to be drafted first." He didn't have anybody tell him like, "Whoa, like, be humble, kid. Like, come on now. Like, he's, 18 years old, and he just straight up says, like, yeah, I expected it to happen. And it's like, I think, I think you and I are of the same mindset of there needs to be that governing body because
Hmm.
that kind of, it's good to have that, but, keep it inside. You know what I mean? Like, have that confidence, like, knowing yourself, I guess, in my opinion. And I think that I guess I'd ask you this: do you think the toxicity and stuff within the scenes, and not necessarily that we see it that much in the pro scenes, but I think that that's personally a major reason why there is a lesser amount of talent here in NA. Do you think that would be solved with a governing body and a structured way of getting up to, the NALCS, or do you disagree with that?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that anything could ever be completely solved. I would say that it
Yeah.
would certainly help
Yes.
or aid with giving, these young kids the ability to have the mentoring and coaching and structure that they need to conduct themselves professionally
Yeah.
in those kinds of situations. And so, with a third party governing body such as the NCAA, I would think that, yeah, it would provide that level of structure. Because you're right. I mean, when you see these young kids who get drafted out of, for college football, they're not going up there and saying those kinds of things.
No.
They're very professional and they know how to conduct themselves,
Mhm.
which is something I think that over years of time, professional organizations have really created a culture
Mhm.
to put out that expectation that
Exactly.
this is how we will conduct ourselves, like in the NFL, minus a few of the things that have happened, of course, with like taking a knee and stuff. But
Yeah.
whatever. Anyways, yes, I do think that that would certainly help. Although you'll certainly get those people who are loudmouthed individuals who you can't coach, and they'll just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely do think that that would help. And yeah, it's just I've noticed that it seems like a lot of it's unfortunate that a lot of kids who have come into the limelight, who have their 15 minutes of fame, or just become popular, have a great opportunity in front of them,
Yep.
don't necessarily handle it as professionally as they could. And so perhaps maybe with that added structure and organization, that would better prepare them for those kinds of opportunities and how to handle those situations.
Absolutely. I really I appreciate your opinions on that too. So let's get back to you guys a little bit here.
Sure.
What are some of your guys' goals for 2018? What is a goal that you as Bellevue want to reach?
Well, we started with League of Legends, and so the overall goal for me for the program is to continue to grow and
Mhm.
have a successful program.
Mhm.
Well, first and foremost, it should be successful. So what we want to do is have a League of Legends team and an Overwatch team, and we'll
Okay.
be competing for both games in the fall.
Great.
Um, we want to be at the highest competitive level that we possibly can, but we also, most importantly, want to have kids who are successful in the classroom.
Yes.
And so, kids who are both extremely good at the game, who I welcome and want to be a part of our program, there's have to know that there's a culture here and there's a standard and level of expectation that you will not only be successful,
Mhm.
quote unquote, on the field or in the game, but
Mhm.
also in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I think that that's one of the main goals is to just make sure that we maintain a high overall team GPA of at least a 3.0 or higher. And in
That's
addition to
good.
that, like I said, continue to grow the program. A lot of them are involved in community service type things that we do here within the community. And I ask many of them to also, in addition to a lot of the things that I asked them to do, like of course just participate in any team activities, but to also just help in just maybe speaking to other kids to help give back and to try to create and grow the esports and gaming community here in Bellevue and Omaha.
That's awesome, and I think that there's a lot that can be said about that kind of a mindset, as we see, all the different problems in traditional sports, with all the different things that are happening. I mean, I remember my dad telling me back in the day that there was somebody who the Bengals drafted. I forget from which school, but he couldn't even read. You know, and it was just like, I mean, it's terrible because it was like, sports became more important than these kids' academic futures. So I think for
Hmm.
any parents out there who are able to, you know, view this, you should know that every single esports program I've talked to has hammered home the fact that it's got to be about in the classroom and out of it, because we see too many kids. I saw it my freshman year at Miami, a kid who flunked out, and he went on to be a StarCraft pro in France. But I mean, I mean
Not
he
everyone has those opportunities.
no, I mean, and it's just like, I mean, it can be a problem. So it's that balancing act, and I really think that, again, for those parents out there viewing this, if your kid's going to school and they want to, go for esports, go to a program that's going to value something like that. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad to hear that. My last question for you, sir, is for those high schoolers who want to get involved with a program such as yours. What would your advice be for them? And what about your program? It's a sales pitch for you at that point. Why should these high schoolers come to your guys' program?
Well, first and foremost, the advice that I have to give is, follow your dreams. If you've been told, hey, don't play video games, that's a waste of your time. I mean, if it's something that you truly have a passion for and you're really interested in and it helps motivate you to do better, to be better,
Mhm.
then do it. Definitely do it. Um, the advice I guess for coming to be a part of our program, just know that you're going to have a good time, but you're going to also work hard and it's going to be a commitment, but you're going to have a great time doing it
Awesome.
because you're going to get that traditional college experience, that traditional college athlete experience by having those same levels of demands on you, both academically as well as both competitively. Because what we're about here is getting a great education for your time after school, but while you're here, it's to also, of course, compete at the highest level that you possibly can here at the college level.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's anybody in the Omaha area. You guys should be definitely looking at Bellevue, as they've created a great program. They've got a great guy running it. So make sure that you check them out. Any final words for the people, Alex?
Final words are, just if you're interested, feel free to contact me. My contact information's on the website.
Yeah.
Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to post your guys' stuff in our
Oh,
below the video as well. So we'll make sure
cool.
to get that taken care of. So, Alex, just thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome, Rob. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. And also, thank you to everyone who's been watching this series. You can find us on YouTube by searching the Game House, Haus, just in case. And the same on Facebook or Twitter. The links will be listed below, along with Bellevue's. And thank you for watching this episode of Dorm Chats. And from our house to yours, have a great day and be on the lookout for our next interview.
Thanks, Rob.